this weekend in American Motorsports continues with our live commentary coverage of the Coca-Cola 600 practice and qualifying, which is taking place, of course, at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And we're about to get into practice here in a couple of moments. Qualifying will be soon after, all on this same stream, so you won't want to go anywhere. We'll have full coverage for you over the next 2 hours. Group practice as usual. And then we will get into the single kart qualifying immediately after, one lap per driver to see who will set the pole for this year's Coca-Cola 600. And as far as the season has gone thus far, we are off from an all-star race at North Wilkesboro Speedway last weekend. So the last points race was actually 2 weeks ago at Kansas. Kyle Larson got his third win, matching Christopher Bell for the most on the year. Oddly enough, Christopher Bell went on to win the All-Star race last weekend in the non-points race and winning that $1 million bonus check. On top of that, speaking of Kyle Larson, again, he's running the double this weekend. Indianapolis 500, Coca-Cola 600. Weather seems to be in his favor for the events this weekend, so I do believe he is going to be competing in both races this weekend, unlike last year where the rain from Indy transferred into the rain at Charlotte. We never got to see him run the 600, only competed in the 500. As far as today's action, Amazon Prime Video is where you can watch visually for practice and qualifying, as we've had for pretty much most of the first half of the season, outside of the All-Star race last weekend, the Clash at the beginning of the year, as well as the Daytona 500 and the lead up to that. All practice and qualifying has been on Amazon Prime Video so far this year, but the difference this weekend, they will start having their NASCAR Cup Series race broadcast this Sunday. This will be the first of 5 consecutive weeks that Amazon Prime Video will be taking care of NASCAR Cup Series race action as well as practice and qualifying during the week. So with that being said, they have turned it over to the new crew. Adam Alexander, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Steve Letarte will be on the call for this weekend and for the next several weeks' action, unlike where we had the Fox team doing the practice and qualifying on Amazon Prime Video leading up to where we're at this weekend. Jamie Casa, Joe Rochester, Marcus Villarreal, welcome into the stream. You guys are the first in the chat below. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more live NASCAR commentary streams like this every NASCAR race weekend. I asked you guys in the chat who you think is going to qualify on the pole, or at least most likely of the 4 drivers. The only reason I left Kyle Larson off of there is just because he is going to have to drop to the rear for the start of... no, I guess he wouldn't, because he will be practicing and qualifying the car, so never mind. Justin Allgaier would be the standby backup driver if needed for tomorrow, but again, shouldn't be needed unless Larson gets into an incident, which I don't want to get into that. But as long as he's healthy and completes the race tomorrow at Indy, weather shouldn't be an issue. Get to hear from Trevor Bayne on the broadcast as well. I actually forgot Carl Edwards was going to be on the broadcasts for Prime. So we'll get to hear from him also throughout the course of their broadcasts. Only Amazon Prime race that I will not be doing is the Michigan race. I'll be attending that in a couple of weeks. But the other 4 Amazon Prime Video races, obviously live commentary right here on the channel, as we do every weekend for races I don't go to in person. Full 40-car field this weekend, 4 open entries. Those drivers are all going to be in Group A of practice. Connor Zilisch will be making his oval debut at Trackhouse Racing in the 87. His Cup debut was at COTA earlier this year, ended up in a DNF, looking to complete all 600 miles for his opening race. Jimmie Johnson going to be making his 700th career Cup Series start in the 84 for Legacy Motor Club. Could arguably be his final career Cup start. They haven't really said anything about that, but it'd be a good round number. His second start of the season, first since the Daytona 500 where he finished 3rd. And as far as the other 2 open entries this weekend, New York Racing in the 44 will yield an entry, as well as the 66 for MBM. Josh Bilicki in the 66 this weekend. He'll be making his 4th career Coke 600 start. And in the 44 will be Derek Kraus making his 7th Cup start, first of this season. Ran 6 races last year. So 25 minutes of Group 1 practice has started. The clock has started, at least. No cars have actually made a lap yet. Several of them leaving pit road. 20 cars in each group, splitting the field in half, and then 1 continuous single car, single lap qualifying run. 1 round up that at the bottom of the next hour. Quick update on the truck race. Didn't get to watch it. So the truck race last night, Corey Heim pretty much dominated. Won both stages. Led the most laps. Led 98 of 134 laps. Was able to get the win. Had the fastest lap of the race. So max points day 61 points for him. And as far as the outburst of that, really, Chastain, Larson, or sorry, not Larson. Chastain, Kyle Busch, the other Kyle. They were able to lead laps at times on the short run, but Heim definitely had the best long run car. Layton Riggs also was pretty good on the short run, especially in stage 3, but none of them were able to compete with Corey Heim. A roughly 6-second victory for Heim. ARCA race was yesterday, of course, so doubleheader yesterday on the channel, doubleheader today. We'll have a doubleheader for you again tomorrow. Jimmie Johnson's actually the only active driver this weekend who has more than one Coke 600 win in the field, 4 of them total. He won 3 in a row from 2003 to 2005. His last one was in 2014. But he's making the Coke 600 start here this weekend. Again, his 700th of his NASCAR Cup career. Carvana sponsorship, as he has had for the 84 car, and that start, any start really, he's made behind the wheel of a Legacy Motor Club Toyota. Ty Gibbs, top of the speed charts after a couple laps here. His fast lap of a 29.939. Once we get a few laps in, I don't think we're going to see anybody else jump to the top, just because we see quite a bit of tire fall off in these 1.5-mile tracks, especially at the next gen. Charlotte was last repaved back in 2007, so about 19 years on this surface coming into this weekend, 18. Gibbs' lap was the only lap of a sub 30-second lap time thus far. Carson Hocevar is in second. AJ Allmendinger just jumped up to third on his second lap. Denny Hamlin bumped back to fourth, and Eric Jones rounds out our top 5. So 3 Toyotas, 2 Chevys up there. There aren't a lot of Fords in Group 1. Brad Keselowski, Cole Custer are the only 2 Fords. Josh Bilicki as well for MBM. And those are the only 3 Fords in this group. So there's going to be a lot more Toyotas, a lot of Chevys in Group 1, and a lot more Fords in Group 2 when we have this practice session continue on. Mike H., welcome into the stream. A couple of Blaney votes I see in the chat. As far as who could get the pole for today's qualifying run. We'll go more in-depth driver by driver when they get into qualifying and each of the statistics leading into that. Different graphics for the Amazon Prime Video coverage as well compared to what we've seen so far this season. Usually it's just been the Fox graphics, but it's been on Amazon Prime, but now they have their whole graphics department. Looks very bright, very vibrant, very colorful. They make it easier to follow. Fast speeds here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. They got Denny Hamlin in the in-car cam right now. 187 miles per hour on entry into turn 3. And Hamlin is currently on his 6th lap, 7th now, in this practice session. Only 185 miles an hour on entry into turn 1, despite the fact that the front stretch is a little bit longer in length than the back straightaway by just under 500 feet. Highside was really working well in the Truck Series race yesterday, so we're going to see multiple groove racing all weekend through the Xfinity race still later to come this afternoon. Their practice and qualifying was earlier this morning. And then, obviously, the Cup race tomorrow, 600 miles, longest race of the season. So again, Adam Alexander, Dale Jr., Steve Letarte in the booth. Let's listen into those guys for a minute.
Here this weekend. Well, tight under max load, what does that mean? As the 11 goes down the back stretch, he's going to turn off into the corner, and it's almost like jumping off a hill. Look at the 54 right here. As he turns down in, right there, you can just feel it. You can see it. You get squished into the bank, just like a roller coaster. Same idea. You get squished down to the seat. Well, that squish happens to the front tires, the rear tires, everything in that car. Some cars respond when they're pushed into the asphalt. What we're hearing out of Kim about Denny Hamlin's car is his car gets a little tight. The front tires don't work as well. Looking on board now with his teammate Ty Gibbs, I like what I'm seeing his right hand still works. It's just not locked to the left nail. This car looks like it's driving pretty good. Currently second on the charts. Yeah, Ty Gibbs, he's 26th in points coming into this race, minus 34. Not where this team wants to be. You know, see, get a little bit tight, closing in on teammate Denny Hamlin right there. But we talked to
some of the officials at JGR, and they're telling us that they've begun a bit of a rebuild to rebuild the foundation around this young man. Things got tough at the end of last year, and they thought that they needed to not necessarily hit the reset, but give him more support. This is 100 start this weekend. Look at the graphic there at all the drivers when they got their first career win around that 100 start. There's a lot of pressure on him to start having those results. And Adam, he's feeling that, but I believe JGR is trying to insulate him as best they can so that he can start to get that performance going.
And maybe this is the place to get it done. Started on the pole here a year ago, led a bunch of laps, collected stage points, even though the race was shortened, only had a couple of stages to collect points in last year due to the rains that came. And so when you look across the board, opportunity weekend for him to get back in the game and creep back up toward that playoff cut line. He's second on the board to Carson Hocevar, another young driver who's been so impressive this year, in particular in qualifying. Hocevar won the pole 1.5 miles a month ago at Texas Motor Speedway. We know the 77 and Team Spire are quite capable.
Yeah, capable and fast. The struggle I have for the 77 is just some decision making. I think that's what Carson has to clean up. I think most young drivers have to. This isn't an isolated case for Carson.
What about it, Trevor?
Yeah, the 77 car obviously fired off with a lot of speed. The truck, but its long run speed looks really good as well. This isn't unusual for the 77 team. Every week they said they've been at the top of all the metrics they can look at from practice. They're still trying to figure out what that offset is to start the race because the track's down so much. What are they lacking there, Steve, to maybe figure out how to turn these long runs in practice into a race finish?
That is the challenge of a younger driver, right? A more veteran driver, they have a feel that they need in practice, knowing the track's going to cool and change, and also pace. You know, Hocevar's quickest at a 29.92 lap right there at the top of the charts. They won't run that within a second of that until probably lap 300 tomorrow night when the sun is finally set and the lights are down. But so far, look at that 77 going by Austin Dillon. Car looks good.
Hocevar leading the way. 8 minutes into practice at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's NASCAR on Prime.
All right, so Hocevar top of the speed charts, as they were just alluding to on the broadcast, a 180.445 mile per hour average on his lap of a 29.926. Only 2 drivers have ran a lap sub 30 seconds on the speed chart. A couple tenths of a difference, really, between Hocevar, Gibbs, and then where everybody else is third on back. So the full 20-car lineup right now for the cars that are on track in this Group 1 practice. Again, Hocevar is first, Ty Gibbs second, AJ Allmendinger in third. Then you got Denny Hamlin fourth, Eric Jones fifth, Bubba Wallace sixth, Michael McDowell seventh, Brad Keselowski eighth, Shane Van Gisbergen ninth, Daniel Suarez rounds out the top 10. Justin Haley in 11th, Austin Dillon 12th, Riley Herbst 13th, Jimmy Johnson 14th, and Cole Custer 15th. 16th is Ty Dillon, Connor Zillage 17th, Cody Ware in 18th. Derek Kraus 19th, Josh Bilicki 20th of the 20. We'll take a quick look at the lap average chart. Obviously, still relatively early into this session. Ty Gibbs does have the fastest 5-lap average. Fastest 10-lap average, actually, AJ Allmendinger, who has scored a couple of top 10 finishes on mile-and-a-half tracks so far this season. AJ just timed in fastest also in the 15-lap average category. So AJ looking a little bit better in the long runs than, say, a Hocevar and a Gibbs, who have the fastest times overall. AJ third fastest overall in practice to this point. We'll take our first break of the stream. You're listening live on KRC, Coca-Cola 600 practice. Ongoing qualifying soon to come. Xfinity Series race coverage will be later on today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. 300-mile race, the BetMGM 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And then tomorrow we'll be doing the double right here on the channel with Kyle Larson, just not at the tracks, where Indianapolis 500 coverage will begin at 12:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow afternoon. And the Coca-Cola 600 later that night, 5:30 p.m. Eastern in the evening, starting in the daylight hours, finishing in the night. Overcast skies right now. It was mostly sunny during the ARCA race yesterday evening. Cooler track temps, but nonetheless very similar to what we'll be seeing for tomorrow at the start of the race. Again, the race ending in the daytime, or sorry, starting in the daytime, ending in the night. Late evening, but the Xfinity Series race will be done before dark later on. 3 top 10s this season for AJ, a couple of them on 1.5 miles. His best is at Homestead on the 1.5 mile track, 7th place there. Also had a top 10 at Vegas the week before. AJ's hover around the playoff bubble battle right now. Again, spotlighting him because he has a pretty solid long run car as of right now to those on the track. A lot of the bigger names we'll see in Group 2 of practice coming up here in about 20 minutes or so.
Performance, maybe it happens at the weekend.
Oh, he's glad you're talking about it. Just went to the top of the board.
10-lap average. So
Oh,
basically,
there
that
we
is
go.
the average over 10 laps. And why I think that matters in the 16 cars, as you mentioned, Dale, improved performance. But Kansas and Texas, the last 2 races, the last 2.5 miles, 36th and 38th, right? They've had issues that have hurt the 16. I know they raced last week, but the All-Star is kind of a reset. It doesn't have the same pressure as everything else. So we'll see if that 10-lap average, that longer run speed, Marty, works out for the 16. You can have 400 laps worth of it tomorrow night.
Steve, if you saw on there, another car on that 10-lap average. Third right now, Brad Keselowski. And you want to know, Steve, how I know the car is good for Brad Keselowski? He so far is 20 laps into this run and hasn't said a word. He has been very happy. And I've heard a number of crew chiefs mention on the longer run, he looks like he is maybe the best car the longer they run. But Steve, here's a question I have for you, and you sort of touched on it a moment ago. It is warm here at Charlotte Motor Speedway today. Sun's out. Guess what? Race tomorrow night is going to be cool, and obviously at night as well. So what are the crew chiefs and their drivers learning right now that will help them tomorrow night?
Well, they actually probably know where they need to finish the race. This is more of a test of can you adapt that setup to start the race? Because you're going to have to start the day like, so you see Jeremy Bullins right there on the bottom left. First, you're working with Brad Keselowski, and I think they need a little bit of positive energy. So while the track conditions may be different, I'd be selling it, Adam. But we're looking good right now.
Well, contact with the wall for Denny Hamlin in that number 11. You see him on the racetrack, but let's take a look off of turn 2. Just a little bit high, carrying a little bit of speed.
Just a little kiss.
Slight contact. I mean, you'd like to see a little bit lighter than that, but not too bad. I mean, he's still out on the racetrack, running laps. Right along here. But he didn't seem to think it was a big deal because
No.
he never lifted and he never really got fancy with the steering wheel to try to avoid it. Just kind of ran out of racetrack right there as he continues to run laps here and circle the track in practice.
That's the one thing, though, to remember about this race tomorrow night. You're going to face adversity at some point. And it is so long. You just have to stay in the game because the opportunities to come back are enormous. NASCAR's longest night.
Talking to the crew chiefs really throughout the garage, one word I heard more this weekend than I normally hear, and that's just patience. Because to your point, they all, in their own different way, didn't say that it was bound to happen, but they just knew a challenge was going to come their way. So you can't panic. You have to wait to see what happens, wait to see how it's kind of served up, adjust, and be in position. I tell everybody, I would just get 300 miles in, trying to be somewhere in the top 15, take a breath, let the lights come on, and then try to race. If you try to eat this elephant in one bite, you are going to fail miserably. It's just too long of an event.
2 crew chiefs told me in the garage this morning, make sure you're on the lead lap, start in the final stage, and then you're in the game
So
and in position for a top 10
it's
finish.
just so easy to say it, though. Like, you know,
Here's some team radio.
Pre-op, and then that promoted to yeah, I kind of and we're landing phase overall it's pretty better. Typical 3 or 4 night graduated water. We get water covered.
so I'd be overall concerned for that balance. Not as much the low on grip. I think the daytime will do that with the track temperature, but I believe in the track cools, it's going to free up. So already being loose, Trevor, would concern me. I just think I would rather be just a little bit tight, a little bit lacking front grip at this point on the track condition.
Yeah, I agree, Steve. I think as this track cools down, we typically gain a little bit of front grip and the car gets more sealed off. But for Jimmy Johnson here, those bumps and then moving around a little bit have him concerned. But I watched his line and he was running the middle pretty well with that loose off. As he moved down the track, that seemed to snap loose worse. And we talked about wrapping that line. He was not able to do that at the end of the run. So that's when he parked it here to work on it some more.
43, Eric Jones, the team car.
the team front of Jimmy Owens.
Yeah.
Talk about Jimmy Star. This is 1 for 3. Starting to see a little bit of light, I think, for this organization.
Well, mostly I think with John Hunter Nemechek, Eric's had some frustrating days. The speed is there. Both these cars seem to move up through the field in terms of running position, but John Hunter Nemechek's really done a good job getting good results here over the last couple of weeks. Still kind of waiting on Eric Jones to be able to have the fortune and luck to put together complete races while this team starts to continue to improve. Top 10 finish this season, right there. And see painting that line through turn 3 and 4, trying to get your car to turn. Right ahead of Bubba Wallace.
Well, it's interesting. Bubba's like the tail of what stages can do. And I say that because his average finishers here is about 5 spots worse than the last 2 years. But when you look at where he ends up in the points, he's probably ahead or tracking above where he normally is in the point situation. And that's just because they've been qualifying well, running well early in these races, and finishing each stage inside the top 10 where you score those extra points. So you have to be very careful when you look at different stats, because you would think the goal is just to finish as high as you can in every race. But sometimes a good race is 3rd or 4th most points. Sometimes that happens by running well in the middle stages, even if it costs you a few at the end. But when I listen to Bubba talk about the year, he's looking forward to having those points and having maybe a little less stressful of a summer.
In a good place right now. 100 stage points this year for Bubba Wallace. Almost a third of their points scored. Impressive for driver 23.
Nice.
Wallace only has one career top 10 in the Coca-Cola 600. He finished 4th in 2023, just 2 years ago. As far as the drivers on track right now, again, Carson Hocevar leading the way in practice with Ty Gibbs 2nd, AJ Allmendinger 3rd, Denny Hamlin in 4th, Eric Jones 5th in this group, Bubba Wallace in 6th, Michael McDowell 7th, Brad Keselowski 8th, Shane Van Gisbergen in 9th, and Daniel Suarez rounding out the top 10. Go back to the lap average chart. We mentioned already that Ty Gibbs had the fastest 5 lap average, and then AJ Allmendinger had the fastest 10 and 15 lap averages. AJ also has the fastest 20 lap average, though he did not make a run of 25 consecutive laps or longer. Brad Keselowski tops that speed chart. And then when we go to the 30 lap average, Daniel Suarez is actually the quickest there. And quite a few drivers have ran, in this group at least, 30 plus laps on a consecutive run. Suarez, Gibbs, Hamlin, Wallace, Haley, Keselowski, and Zillage. So a lot of different names that we see on the top of that leaderboard. I'm wondering if it's going to be more consistent looking when we get into Group 2 and see how any of those drivers can maybe adapt. We have had cars on the racetrack so far today, so it wasn't a green racetrack per se for the drivers in Group 1 for practice, so I don't know that the Hocevar Gibbs times are necessarily going to hold just because the track already had rubber. Usually when we see Group 1 in practice go out, it's a green racetrack. The lap times are going to be quicker on the short run. There's going to be more fall off. So it's kind of hard to look at the speed charts for practice from one group to the next. But because cars have been on the track today, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. No rain to wash the rubber away in between then as well. Still green flag, no cautions to record so far in Group 1 practice. There is a little less than 7 minutes to go when it did cut to commercial break. And as they come back now, about 5.5 minutes remain. Take a look at the point standings. Coming into this weekend, Kyle Larson tops the current point standings as we run, so he definitely doesn't want to miss a race this year. 35-point lead over William Byron. Took the points lead after his win at Kansas. And as far as Byron sitting 2nd in points, still has the lone win in the Daytona 500 this year, but it's been very consistent. Good qualifying efforts, a lot of stage points in most of these races. Christopher Bell is 3rd in points and tied for the most wins with Larson at 3 apiece. Chase Elliott is 4th. He's the highest in the point standings without a win. And Ryan Blaney rounds out the top 5. Tyler Reddick is 6th. Denny Hamlin 7th. Alex Bowman in 8th. Joey Logano 9th. And Bubba Wallace rounds out the current top 10 in points. When we look at the playoff grid side of things, nobody's outside the top 16 in points with a win. Everybody's inside of it right now. We have had 7 different winners. 3 apiece again for Larson and Bell, as mentioned already. 2 wins for Denny Hamlin, and then 1 for William Byron, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, and Josh Berry. 9 drivers would be in on points if the playoffs started this weekend. Chase Elliott being one of those drivers, then Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Chase Briscoe, And then the last two drivers in on points right now are Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Ryan Preece. Preece has a 7-point cushion over Kyle Busch and a 17-point cushion to that of John Hunter Nemechek. Carson Hocevar is 19th in points and also still in the mix as he's only 19 points back. And Michael McDowell is also in the mix at 24 points out. So very, very tight around that playoff cut line here in the middle of the regular season. Entering this weekend, this will be the 13th race out of 26 for the regular season. So once the checkered flag falls on Sunday night, we'll be halfway home. So for the standings to be that tight with that many drivers right now, about 14th through 22nd in points, it's going to be fun to watch through the summer months to see who will get in and who will not. May get some upset winners in there still. We've got quite a few road courses. We've still only had one road course this season. We've got 3 of them in the next month and a half, with Sonoma, Mexico City, and the Chicago Street Race. Watkins Glen later in the summer in August. So maybe Shane Van Gisbergen can maybe get a win. AJ Allmendinger, who have both won on road courses in the Cup Series. Michael McDowell, another one. He's had some speed this season. Those could be some upset winners in there that could move the cutoff line. Of course, we got another race at Atlanta on a drafting style oval. Daytona. There will be movement. Right around 2.5 minutes to go in this practice session. Take a look at the chat poll. Asked you guys who you think is going to qualify on the poll, at least of the 4 that are in there. Ryan Blaney at 54% actually has the most votes right now by quite a wide margin. William Byron, 23%, 15% for Bell, Reddick at 8%. Ty Gibbs is the defending pole sitter of this race, and he is second fastest in practice, so he should be one that could compete for the pole as well. He actually got his first of 2 poles in his Cup career last season, one of which obviously coming right here at Charlotte, his very first. Seen a lot of first-time Cup Series winners in the Coca-Cola 600. Ty Gibbs will be making his 100th start of his NASCAR Cup career this weekend. A lot of drivers got their first career wins that are currently active in the Cup Series around that same time frame. Larson, Reddick, Elliott, all in that 96 to 99 career win mark. So Gibbs at 100. We'll see if he can break through sometime soon. I think a real good racetrack for him would be Chicago, honestly. Mexico City's a good road course racer. A couple of relatively newer ones on the schedule. This will be the 3rd year at Chicago, but we still haven't had a dry race there from start to finish. Or a full race nonetheless. Ended early for darkness because of an early rain delay last year, and then the year before that, they were racing in the rain. That got shortened as well. Most laps ran in the practice session so far. Justin Haley at 42 laps. 41 for Hamlin. Have to refresh our page here so I can look at it on our screen instead of on the TV in front of me. 43 laps now for Justin Haley, still on the track. Daniel Suarez ran 41. 40 for Connor Zilisch, the rookie. So the drivers who are going to be in Group 2 will be hitting the racetrack very shortly. AJ Allmendinger in the 16, missing pit road as he tried to practice his entry off of turn 4. Riley Herbst on his way down right now. Will get there cleanly. A few others coming in a little hotter. Shane Van Gisbergen. Derek Kraus. Red flag displayed. 25 minutes have concluded. Drivers who are completing a lap can finish, then hit pit road the following time. And in about 5 to 10 minutes, we will see the Group 2 drivers hit the racetrack for their their practice session. Not qualified yet. That won't be for a little bit. Austin Dillon running over the box on his way to pit road as he was coming in a little hot as well. Trying to find the mark here in practice so that way you know when to hone it down a bit for the race. And I'm sure we'll see several green flag pit stops in the longest race of the year. Remember, this is not only the longest race of the year, but the most points that will be awarded in one race. 71 points at max. We have the Xfinity Fastest Lap Award, which is new to the Cup Series this season, for that bonus point. And then there will be 3 stages before the final stage. So 4 total, each 100 laps in length. So a possibility of 30 stage points, and then obviously 40 race win points if you can win the race on top of it. Patrick Chatterley, welcome into the stream. Commercial break currently on Amazon Prime Video. Got some buffering going on my end. I think we're going to have to back out and log back in. It froze on me under caution. So Hocevar, who had the fastest lap in that first group of cars, ran 34 laps total. Light goal is 50 for today's live commentary stream of NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying. Should get a lot more viewers in for the qualifying portion per usual. I know that NASCAR has actually had the practice sessions for the Cup Series all season on YouTube Live. It's on the Sports on Prime channel. I don't know if they're going to do that still for the TNT, NBC USA Network coverage for the rest of the year when we get through these next several weeks of Amazon Prime. But at least practice and qualifying will be on, at the very least, basic cable the rest of the season. 29.926, again, the fastest lap so far, Carson Hocevar.
This practice qualifying session. Let's hear from our friends down at the pre-race stage. Danielle Trotta, Corey LaJoy, and Carl Edwards, welcome.
Thank you, Double A. Yeah, it's prime time for us. So happy to be with you guys trackside. Danielle Trotta alongside NASCAR Hall of Famer Carl Edwards and current Cup Series driver Corey LaJoy. Corey, somehow we got our boy back. We got him back to NASCAR.
Yeah, we found him. We against his will a little bit. We drug him here. We're in Charlotte, not Missouri anymore. But I'm so happy you're here, Carl.
Yeah, we just got done with practice, and I thought we were going to need a lot of coffee up here. I don't need any. This is exciting.
My blood is pumping.
Cars behind us the whole time, back in the game, waking up at a racetrack the last 2 days. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
So Carl hasn't woken up at a racetrack since he left Homestead in 2016. You're watching him sail off into turn 1 here, buddy. You want to get back in, or what's it doing to you?
I don't know. We took that pace car ride this morning, which was really fun, but this place is bumpy. It's tough. It looks slick. I mean, we saw Denny brush the wall. It's tough. I think I'll sit back here, watch like everyone else, and have a good time in this seat.
Can't wait for your observations all season long. Corey, you grew up at this track. You're from Charlotte. All the drivers live here. It's a home game. A lot of great memories, I'm guessing, for you as a kid.
Absolutely. And one of them actually is from right here. Whole night used to be one of my favorite nights of the year. Thursday, we used to race Bandoleros after qualifying. And one of my earliest memories was Jimmy Johnson going 210 miles an hour in turn 1, saying, I want to do that job. And now, look, 700 times later, he's back doing it again. But that was one of my earliest memories as a kid, probably 9, 10 years old, watching these gladiators cooking at 200. And I was so lucky to be able to do it for a long time.
Carl, a part of that crop. Can you believe your boy, your nemesis often at times on track, 49 years old, Jimmy's still out here making start number 700.
And when my son asks, like, who's a great race car driver, who should I be like? It's Jimmy Johnson. And I think everyone in the sport can echo the same thing. A true champion, and he's the first guy. He'll race you hard, and he's the first guy to come congratulate you, no matter what the outcome is.
Such a good guy. You said he was your hero growing up, Corey. Connor Zilic feels the same way. He was just out there making his first ever Cup start on an oval. He said, before the race, I want to get my picture taken with JJ. But we were just watching him go around the track. What do you make of the young Connor Zilic?
Just a stud, hometown kid as well from Morrisville. He's got all the tools. He's got the poise, he's got the maturity, but he's got a long night tomorrow night ahead of him. And what I don't love about it right now is that metric draw. Not a full-time car at Trackhouse. It's the second Cup Series start, first on the oval. It goes out first to qualify. That's a big disadvantage with this car. That track continues to get cleaned up every car that goes on it, and he's got a big disadvantage, which then perpetuates a tough pit road selection. So I hope he can overcome it. And if anybody can do it, I think it's Connor.
Larson's not the only one doing the double. Connor Zilic is doing Xfinity today and Cup tomorrow. He qualified second in the Xfinity Series race coming up later today. It's very loud here, so during practice, we couldn't really talk much. Carl jotted down a note to me. He said, 6 car, good.
Yes, and we're going to talk a lot about. I am at least because I'm maybe a veteran or of a different generation. Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, these guys, and they have something that I think is really going to shine through during this event. To see Brad running that well, his average was so fast. I mean, Brad is a survivor. Trust me. I've bumped heads with him. He never quits. And so for him to break out this season and get out of that, 33rd points position or something, to run well here, I after seeing practice, I think it's possible.
He's 33rd in points. A win would certainly turn his whole season around. He's done it in the 600 before. How about Kyle Larson, the man that is the month of May, Indy 500 and Coke 600 tomorrow? Coming up here in the car in just a little bit. Corey, what do you think about this guy?
It's just unbelievable to follow along his month of May. Running the Indy car, running the Cup car, going back and forth, helicopters, jet fighters, the whole thing. This guy is waving the banner for not only our sport, but just for motorsports in general. And he is so freaking good. And we get to talk to him here later in the show. I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
Kyle Larson will stop by the Prime desk here in just a little bit. Group 2 practice coming up next. Keep it right here live on Amazon Prime.
All right, as we wait for the split in practice, we'll go through the top 20 again from Group 1 and how they lined up. Carson Hocevar had the fastest time. Ty Gibbs was second overall. AJ Allmendinger third. Denny Hamlin fourth. Eric Jones fifth. Bubba Wallace sixth. Michael McDowell seventh. Brad Keselowski eighth. Shane Van Gisbergen ninth. Daniel Suarez 10th. Justin Haley 11th. Austin Dillon 12th. Riley Herbst in 13th. Jimmy Johnson 14th. Cole Custer 15th. 16th for Ty Dillon. Connor Zilic 17th, Cody Ware 18th, Derek Kraus 19th, and Josh Bilicki 20th. So those were the 20 drivers that have hit the track already. 20 more still to go. And Group 2 should be starting here any minute, really. We'll see those cars out on the racetrack for their first time this weekend. Lap averages from that first group as well. Again, Ty Gibbs had the fastest 5-lap average. AJ Allmendinger had the fastest 10, 15, 20 lap averages. Fastest 25-lap average was Daniel Suarez. Brad Keselowski, excuse me. And then Daniel Suarez had the fastest 30-lap average from that session. So very split across the board. Obviously, not every driver ran necessarily 25-plus laps consecutively. Few of them running every lap from the start of the session to the end. I believe 4 drivers ran 40-plus laps in that session. Denny Hamlin, Daniel Suarez, Justin Haley had the most with 45. 40 for Zilic, the rookie, as well. We've seen Connor Zilic in the Xfinity Series race a little bit later on. A couple other drivers pulling double duty this weekend for Cup, Truck, and Xfinity action. Kyle Busch ran the truck race last night alongside Ross Chastain. Those drivers had top 5 runs. And looking for a stellar day tomorrow as well. Starts today. Neither one of them were in that first group of practice. They'll both be in group number 2.
We're watching, not just because of the anticipation of the weekend and all that we'll go into tomorrow for him, but what you talked about off the top, Junior, just how strong that 5 team has been in this style of racetrack.
Yeah, his average finish compared to the competition is almost embarrassing for the rest of the field at the mile and a half. But I mean, we talk about how Larson being possibly in the conversation of greatest driver, at least currently in the world, and he's good everywhere. but it really shows out these type of racetracks. You know, Steve personally, and I do as well a little bit, maybe more so than me, how much emphasis Hendrick Motorsports puts on running well here. Forever, this was Lowe's Motor Speedway, a major sponsor and partner for them. So they always came to this racetrack with a big emphasis on running well. They're 2 miles away. And they know Larson can carry the banner for them on Sunday.
Well, I think this Sunday we're going to talk a lot about Kyle Larson running the double, but I think what makes his attempt different is really Hendrick Motorsports is running the double. You see H1100 is kind of what he has on his sleeve, and this was posted on Instagram for Kyle Larson's Instagram, and everyone basically in the orange and black, that is his IndyCar team. Everyone in the basically straight black with the blue hats on the right side, most of that is his NASCAR team. His crew chief went, his pit crew went. And what I mean, that's on carb day. I'm in Indianapolis, and I just believe it takes, in Tony Stewart's era, he had to manage Indy and Charlotte and where I need to be. We've seen a lot of quotes from Jeff Andrews and Jeff Gordon and Rick Hendrick. They're handling that for Kyle Larson. He just does this right here. Does what Kyle Larson does best, which is drive a race car however he feels it needs to be driven. I've talked to Rick Hendrick about this. He is as proud of having his name on that Indy car as Kyle Larson is sitting in the seat.
I'll say this, though. We can talk all you want about the 1,100 miles in one day and the travel back and forth. But the mental capacity to handle the two different disciplines and to be able to make that transition puts a lot on a guy's shoulders and explains why, as you said, Dale, he's one of the best in the business. And here he is on track, painting that line, driving to the inside of the 42 of John Hunter Nemechek.
Yeah, John Hunter Nemechek bottomed out in the middle of 3 and 4 and lost a little momentum. Going to try to follow Larson now down in the corner. He'll have to find somewhere to get clean air on that 42. Follows Larson right into the corner. Both of them missed the paint at the bottom of the racetrack. You have to be a little careful tiptoeing up off the corner there. Chasing both of those cars up the track off of 4.
Larson won here 2021, a season ago, taking the checkers in the 600. Christopher Bell driving the 20 for Joe Gibbs Racing. JGR has won 4 of the last 7 600s with 4 different drivers.
Yeah, they ended up last year really strong on the 1.5 miles. This year, it's been a different story. They're not quite as good as maybe the HMS or the Penske Fords have been in recent weeks at the 1.5 mile tracks. We talked to Bell about this. He's puzzled, wants to get back to where he feels like they belong at the 1.5 mile tracks, like Kansas, like Charlotte. Had an incredible run here last year, a lot of speed. Knows it's there. Just gotta. It's crazy to these drivers because all these teams have the same parts and pieces. But somehow, some teams get them to run better than others, and it ebbs and flows in performance. And they're looking for a little bit of speed at the 1.5 miles.
Well, it's clear. While it is the same parts and pieces, as you say, Dale, the performance is definitely not the same. And this baffles me that JGR has only had 21 laps on a
Crazy.
half track. I mean, that doesn't even seem to make sense when you just look at the star power, look at the drivers behind the wheel, look at the numbers at all the other style of racetracks.
What about it, Kim?
Yeah, this practice is important for this team to work on their intermediate package, but it's also important for Christopher Bell because he has a brand new spotter this weekend. He and longtime spotter Stevie Reeves, they parted ways after the All-Star race. Now Christopher is paired with Matt Philpott. I talked to Matt this morning, he said, this is the very first time we are working together as driver and spotter. This practice is going to be crucial to get down our language, our timing, our communication. Matt's not a stranger to the spotter stand, though. He's been spotting trucks for the last 2 years. The plan is always to go Cup Series spotting for him. He's got the opportunity a little bit sooner than later. And it's actually Denny who kind of paved the way for Matt to get this opportunity. Matt served as Denny's second spotter a handful of times on road courses and was a big proponent of getting Matt on the spotter stand on the Cup side of things.
It's always great when someone gets the opportunity. He did the Daytona 500 for Truex beginning of this year, so he got some experience there. I think speedway spotting is definitely a little tougher because of the pack and those style of races, but he'll get his shot here.
One of the things we're going to talk about this weekend in the race tomorrow is that painted line at the bottom of the racetrack. It's wider here than it is at most racetracks, and you'll see the drivers, especially down in turn 3, get the left front tire down on that paint. That paint has a whole lot more grip than the rest of the racetrack. And if your front end's not working or you need a little lift rear grip, a little security, you can find it down there. Talking to Ryan Blaney, when we watch him go down into turn 3 here, he says, if I'm going to run the bottom of the racetrack, I have to get to the paint. I intentionally, every lap, want to be on the paint to find that grip because it's a lot faster lap time. They might not use it in 1 and 2 as much. There's a lot of speed around the top of the racetrack there. But in 3 and 4, we'll see him use it a lot, Marty.
Well, Junior, the day started well for Kyle Busch. RCR announced a contract extension. He'll be in the 8 car for 2026 at least. But practice lasted half a lap. He went out and said there was a problem with the steering really bad, and he also had very bad radio communication with the team. So he came in immediately and has not completed a full lap in practice. So if you're Randall Burnett, Steve, what's the checklist right now to get Kyle Busch out on the track and get some practice? And that time's going away pretty quick.
Well, at this point, the steering is the biggest concern, so hydraulic system. So I think the checklist has changed everything you could dream up of changing. I don't believe you could kind of QC it or go through it piece by piece here. Hard to find just a smoking gun that's causing that error for Kyle Busch. But now, no laps, even at a veteran, that's going to put him behind.
RCR one top 5 finish in 2025. Marty talks about the contract extension for Kyle Busch, the same for William Byron at Hendrick Motorsports going through 2029. That announcement came out yesterday. On board with driver 24. Always good in this race, in particular in qualifying.
Well, why wouldn't you lock him down? 27 years old, north of 260 starts, 14 wins, a couple of those being the Daytona 500. I mean, he is exactly what Hendrick Motorsports is kind of built around, as young, upcoming talent like William Byron. I think he suits this 24 car well with his demeanor. Let's listen into their radio.
Little snap 3 moment late on the floor. Everything else is a little tight. Not as well connected in the corners. I'd like to be just like the front doesn't turn and then the back is slipping into reverse.
It's his demeanor. I just love the demeanor behind the wheel. He always seems like he's in control, but don't let that soft-spoken, nice guy demeanor fool you for who he is. Because if you line up next to him on that final restart on the front row, he is there to take it away from you.
There's a few drivers in the garage that would confirm that because they've been on the wrong side. Carson Hocevar for Group 1 still leads.
All right, so Hocevar's fastest time is held up so far. In fact, the top, looks like top 6 have remained the same from Group 1 into the start of Group 2. William Byron has the fastest time of any overall for Group 2. He's 7th overall on the speed chart. Also in this group, you'd have Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, and Alex Bowman rounding out the top 5. Overall lap sheet, we've got Carson Hocevar again, P1, Ty Gibbs in 2nd, AJ Allmendinger 3rd, Denny Hamlin 4th, and Eric Jones 5th. 6th for Bubba Wallace. William Byron 7th, again, fastest in Group 2. Ross Chastain 8th, Michael McDowell 9th, and Chase Elliott in 10th. 11th for Brad Keselowski, Shane Van Gisbergen in 12th, Daniel Suarez 13th, Justin Haley 14th, and Alex Bowman 15th. 16th, Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick 17th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 18th, Kyle Larson 19th, and Austin Cindric 20th. 21st, Austin Dillon, Chase Briscoe 22nd, John Henry Nemechek 23rd. 24th for Riley Herbst, Christopher Bell 25th. Jimmy Johnson 26th, Cole Custer 27th, Ryan Preece 28th, Josh Berry 29th, and Noah Gragson 30th. Chris Buescher 31st, Ty Gillen 32nd, Ty Dillon 33rd. 34th for Connor Zilic, Zane Smith 35th, Joey Logano 36th. Crazy, he's all the way down there on the list. Cody Ware 37th, Derek Kraus 38th, 39th for Josh Bilicki, Kyle Busch, the only driver not to complete a lap, again having a steering issue. Pulled onto pit road as soon as he pulled out onto the racetrack. So they're going to work on that 8 car. We'll see if he can get back out there before the time runs out. Again, 25 minutes for each of these 2 groups. They were about 8 of the 25 minutes complete when they went to commercial a couple of minutes ago. We'll take a quick break. You're listening live, KRC, NASCAR Cup Series Practice, Coca-Cola 600 on the channel. Matthew Dorda Bruno, Frank Powers, Bam Hall, Bradley Thomas, welcome into the stream, guys. Full 40 car qualifying coming up immediately following this session. I think that's the big thing for Busch. Obviously, you want to get him out there before practice is over. Definitely want to get those steering issues completed and fixed before we get into qualifying as well. So that way he doesn't have to start at the rear.
What? In a couple of hours, you can see about all of them.
Yeah, and all these race shops will have fan days. They'll have events throughout the week leading up to the 600 to have fans come out, enjoy what's going on, meet some of their partners, enjoy some of the services they provide. It's a great week all the way around this Charlotte area for race fans and for NASCAR.
I like the attention to detail because Colleague and RCR, they're on the same campus, but it said RCR 52.3, Colleague 53.5. Really dialed it in there, you know?
Talk about dialed in. It's a little difficult with the different groups. Track conditions change. I believe the second group has a slower overall racetrack, but don't tell Ross Chastain this one thing. You had mentioned it in one of our meetings or an earlier conversation how he got out, I think it was at Texas, and said, we have to be closer on Saturday to start the race better. Well, the team must have heard because the one car, he's only 8th overall, but he is leading the 10-lap average, leading the 15-lap average in what I consider a slower racetrack. I think Ross Chastain in the one car is shown up here at Charlotte. Not just good, but head and shoulders above where they have unloaded at other high-speed tracks.
You give them that starting point, it could equal enormous success here tomorrow evening in the Coke 600. I want to go to Team Penske. They've been a part of the news this week, and they are always going to be a part of the news on Memorial Day weekend because of what they do in Indianapolis and, of course, on the NASCAR side. But some major breaking news came out of Indy this week, some changes in their organization. And
Chastain just
Ross
crashed.
Chastain, and there he is, a damage number 1.
So I'll be really interested to see what happens here. You see the left rear. Oh, yeah. Flat.
Hard with that point in it.
All right. So we'll get into this conversation after we see what happens to the one car. But the forbidden fruit of a next-gen car at a high-speed track is rear air pressure. The more air you take out of the rear tires, the lower the diffuser gets to the ground, the more downforce it makes, the faster you go. It sounds complicated. It's very, very simple. The problem is taking air out puts you closer and closer to a threshold of failure, and it isn't defined with a black line on a piece of paper. You don't know where that is. It's different for the first place car versus the 30th place car. It's different for a fast car to a slow car, but it is just instant speed. Less air, faster.
Yeah, we saw something similar at Kansas with Brad Keselowski. He could run a certain amount of air pressure running 20th, 30th in the field, but as he moved through the field and got faster, moved more toward the front, that ended up failing him. And let's take a look. Going down into turn 3. Yeah, car comes around, left rear tire goes. And there's contact to the wall. So kind of lucky, actually, with the contact. Not as severe as you would expect when you blow a left rear tire into 3.
New left side tire this week at Charlotte. We talked a Goodyear. Really, it's the same construction, same build. They just have to change some of the ingredients, they say. So they thought it would react very similar. But Trevor, you and I have had this conversation all week. We saw it at Kansas. We've seen it at other racetracks. Now here it is, Ross Chastain on the one, a flat left rear.
Yeah, no, we were asking Steve if we would see it. I don't even know why we asked anymore. We're seeing this on a weekly basis, and it's that performance you were just talking about, getting that diffuser down to the ground. I talked to a couple drivers about, why can't you do that the way we used to with bump stops or with shims or something? But these shock limiters that they have in these cars, when you get into that limiter, it is such a razor's edge of too much, and that car snaps around. The sidewall of the tire has a lot more cushion to it than that shock limiter does, so they want as little pressure as they can get, even from a ride quality standpoint, into these turn 3 bumps.
Just talking about the importance of Saturday and what it does for you on Sunday, and everything's pointing in the right direction. And now the one team going to have to come from behind the 8 ball. A pause of the action at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's Group 2 practice for the Coke 600.
Ever since we...
Alan Jackson, welcome into the stream as well. Coca-Cola 600 started at 5:30, over around 10:30, 11 tomorrow. Well, it's I think it's starting just after 6 o'clock. Our stream is starting at 5:30 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race. We usually go live about a half hour to 45 minutes before the drop of the green flag. We do some NASCAR trivia on the channel. We do some NASCAR predictions, obviously, who I think will run well, not run well. We highlight the fantasy league. Then we go through the starting lineup, how the point standings have looked so far this season. So we intend to cover a whole in-depth, basically pre-race show, just as they would do on live television. Under caution, Ross Chastain has crashed. He was one of the faster cars in this group. He was actually second in the Group 2 rankings, 8th overall, but 20 laps in, looks like the flat left rear tire causing the incident. A little too low of air pressure. It was a pretty hard crash. It's probably going to take him out of qualifying, and that means he'll have to start at the rear of the field, maybe going to a backup car as well. So the speed in the one right now We're going to have to do the best I can to translate the same setup into the backup car overnight tonight. Looking down our sheet, Kyle Busch still hasn't made a lap either from this group after having those steering issues. Caution came out with about 12 minutes to go in practice, so it'll be interesting to see if NASCAR gives them the full 12 minutes left, depending on how much cleanup is to be had. We're still under yellow at the moment, and the green flag has not yet been displayed. Check that, 29 likes on the stream so far. Goal to get to 50. And we still got a little over an hour left of the stream. Again, qualifying will be coming up immediately after practice. And then on a different stream, following that, about an hour later, we will have the NASCAR Xfinity Series race live on the channel. 300 miles, 200 laps at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Showed a replay of Chastain going around on the incident. He was driving the middle groove through turn 3 when the left rear tire went flat, and then he smacked the wall driver's side door first. Not too hard. He hit it relatively square, but we don't know how much damage there has been done to the underbody of the car with 2 flat left side tires. You know, and how delicate that part of the car is, especially for downforce. Couple of flat tires at Kansas Speedway in practice session a couple of weeks ago, which would have been the last points paying race, also 1.5 miles. Had about 5 of them in the practice session for too low of air pressure. A couple more in the race itself. William Byron and Brad Keselowski during the race had flat tires. Keselowski knocked out of the race, and William Byron trapped a lap down early, resulting in not a lot of stage points. And as a result of Kyle Larson getting the max points day and winning the race, that is why Larson is now the points leader by 35 over Byron, who falls to second in the standings. Byron still got a pretty decent cushion over the third place driver right now in the standings, Denny Hamlin. Or sorry, not Denny Hamlin. Christopher Bell. Hamlin's fallen to 7th. Couple of DNFs for Hamlin in the last several weeks as well. Still got Chastain's car being towed back into the pits. We headed to the garage area. And once the wrecker gets off of the track, should get the practice session continued on. One team taking a look at the car on pit road. NASCAR's probably asking them if they want to get it towed back into the garage right now, or they can make the quick fixes in the pits. Like, it's going to be kind of a tight angle for the wrecker to get into the garage anyway. Definitely going to give this second group a little bit more time for practice, I would assume. It's been kind of a lengthy caution. Got to be getting pretty close to the 12 minutes that they would have had left otherwise. Elongate the stream just a bit. A little bit longer wait before practice as well. And that one car is getting towed back to the garage, so doesn't look like Chastain's going to be participating in qualifying today. Jimmy Johnson standing with Trevor Bayne for an interview.
Weekend. You got anything for him for this Coke 600 this weekend?
We'll see. These guys that do it all the time make it look easy. I think a part-timer has a better shot at a super speedway race versus a 1.5 miles, let alone this one. But thankfully this race is long and I'll have a lot of time to figure stuff out. But I've been in the simulator plenty, but there's nothing like being in the real car on the real track. And so I had some fun in my Carvana Toyota and look forward to a fun day tomorrow.
Hey, speaking of those super speedways, the top 3 in your last race here. I mean, that's something to try to go out and do again, right?
Yeah, that's what we're here for. You know, our cars have been getting better. Just a huge thank you to everybody at Legacy Motor Club and all the hard work that's going into it. we're getting there. I think the 42 and the 43 will have great weekends. Eric showed a lot of speed there in his practice session, so we'll see what happens.
Sounds good, Jimmy. Have a good day.
I remember when he was announced as the next full-time driver at Hendrick Motorsports, and everyone's like, Jimmy who? And now 7 championships, 700 career starts, all the wins. It's remarkable.
I was on the 24 car where Jeff came and told us all he was going to be the guy. And you think the public asked the question, look, what do you see that we don't? Because, the guy hadn't even won an Xfinity Series race at that point. He went on to win Chicagoland, but obviously Jeff Gordon is able to pick talent because he turned into one of the greatest.
I think Jeff said he was actually on the racetrack with him in an Xfinity race and was so impressed by what he saw Jimmy be able to do with that race car. We were talking about the Penske team and what they've been going through, not only this year in the Cup Series of NASCAR, but obviously over at Indy with the Indy 500s, controversy and rules and firing and so forth. It's been a difficult week for Penske, and it does affect this Cup program. They are all in the same house together. You have to imagine that that's on everyone's mind this weekend, Steve.
There's no doubt if I'm a crew chief at Team Penske, after you mentioned it, the Indy 500 qualifying, there were some inspection issues. It's been in the news. Some executives get fired. The mulligan's been used. Right? If I am Paul Wolf, crew chief for Joey Logano right here in the 22 car, what was perhaps my number one goal to be here, be fast, and win the Coca-Cola 600 has double-checked and triple-checked to make sure we don't create any more negative news. It will be a distraction, unfortunately, for Team Penske. I think it will slow these 3 cars down, maybe not intentionally, but the focus will be pulled away from everything else they want to be focused on. We'll just see if they can overcome it over the weekend.
Logano 29th on the board, celebrating his 35th birthday here today.
Wow.
Let's go down to Kim.
And it's on the back stretch. All the air came out all at once. I tried to just keep it straight and brake as hard as I could in a straight line. And our jockey Chevy, it was too late in the straightaway. And I was okay until I got in the banking, and then the whole car got on the ground and round it went.
It's a good racing right there. Guys out there with the opportunity to be around each other and see what their cars are doing in dirty air. See Briscoe down into turn 1 to the top of the racetrack.
I like Reddick in the 45 because that's a team that has struggled lately. 23-11, won top 10 in the last 4 races for that organization, and some difficulties for the 45 group, but he's showing speed up there. 5th overall is Reddick.
And he works that high side as good as anybody else in the series. So this is a kind of racetrack where if they can get the balance of that race car comfortable, he can make the speed at the top of the racetrack better than most drivers, making you a dominant force throughout the night. Right ahead of him, Chase Elliott in that 9 car. For consistency this year, still looking for that win, but I mean they've been running well this year. I know people have kind of been critical of Chase's performance over the last couple of years and waiting on this team to sort of get back to prominence, but starting to see a little life this coming.
Yeah, worst finish of the entire season is 20th all the way back in Atlanta.
He was going to win the Cup 600 in 2020. Caution comes out late. They decide to come down pit road, some stay out. Brad Keselowski goes on to win. He did win the midweek race here during COVID times. We raced back-to-back at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but you said it. I mean, we know the team's got speed, and he has been the model of consistency, talking about NASCAR's most popular driver, number 9, Chase Elliott.
Big Boss is in the house. Mr. Hendrick in your lower right. I'm sure he'll be. We talk all that travel from Kyle Larson. I'm sure Rick Hendrick will be logging some jet miles this week as well.
Marty?
Adam Busch 9 cars have registered a lap in these 2 practice sessions. The one who has not still, Kyle Busch, sitting here on pit road. I just chatted with Randall Burnett a moment ago, and he said they have changed the steering pump, but they're working through a lot of things trying to get him out. In fact, a moment ago, Steve, I counted 7 crew members underneath the hood trying to get Kyle Busch at least a few laps on the track, but they're running out of time.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm not sure laps are as important for Kyle Busch as just for Randall Burnett to sleep tonight. I know if I'm that crew chief, I want to have this mechanical issue resolved. This team will confirm with NASCAR, but I would imagine this is going to be an unapproved change, which means they would have to start in the back. So it's not really about qualifying, but you would get your pit pick. So with 40 cars in the field, you would think this is a big pit road, but it really isn't. It can be a little cramped with a full field there and only about 8 stalls will have openings. I'm not sure Kyle with no laps can expect to qualify in the top 8, but any other position forward in qualifying will help that pit. Oh, look at this battle. This could be the race right here. This is Blaney, Byron, Busher.
The killer bees right here
Yeah.
on track. You know, Busher in the 17 facing adversity. I mean, he ran pretty good at Kansas, right? And he showed a lot of speed on the 1.5 miles. So they get the penalty post Kansas. They often appeal. He's without his crew chief. They got a whole lot going on over there right
Yeah,
now.
so basically, you're allowed to do some work behind the nose and some supporting areas. NASCAR feels they were outside the areas they were allowed to work. There's obviously some sort of defense that RFK feels they have, so they're going to.
The 17.
It's been a rough year inspection wise because you got to remember we also had the other RFK car have an issue after Talladega. So this
Yeah, Ryan Freestand's just second, and he's DQ.
right. So we've had two. The only one who hasn't got in trouble yet is the owner. But Brad just hasn't run great. He ran great at Kansas. We showed you earlier the flat tire. So it's been a lot of different storylines for RFK.
We saw how that's put him in a bit of a hole points wise, but Busher came into this race third best in average finish for the 1.5 this year. So when you come to a racetrack if you know you need to gain ground, whether it's a penalty or whatever it is, you're behind in points. You've got to capitalize on weekends like this. Kim.
As we look at Ryan Blaney currently in the 19th position on the speed chart, he was reporting, I am just bouncing loose in 3 and 4. And as we look at Team Penske, he is the one driver that does not have a win on the season. He has come close, but still winless. And you guys mentioned that Team Penske news. It's not a good weekend to be a winless driver in Team Penske because everybody is finding their P's and Q's this weekend. It is very hard on the teams, very hard on the crew chiefs. They are not trying to push any boundaries. And so for Blaney, still looking for this first win, maybe throttle just a little bit.
And by the way, they did add time to the clock, over 7 minutes added when Chastain had his problem. So everybody getting a chance to put the laps in here in practice for Group 2.
I got to ask the question. So, with everything that's going on at Penske, we're looking at the lap times. We don't really see any Penske car that stands out to us. Do you believe there is any truth to them being ultra conservative, knowing they can't come in here and have they can't make any waves going through the technical process? And so maybe they have some speed out of those cars, just trying to be careful.
Absolutely. I used to say you want to be uncomfortable or slow. Those are your two options, right? And you have to take, not that you're illegal, but you take every tolerance on everything, and if one bent, if something bends during the race, a little bit this, a little bit that, next thing you know, you're in trouble with NASCAR, even if it's unintended. And I think that's the point. Is before what happened in Indianapolis, if Team Penske got in trouble over here from an unintended issue, there's no blame here, right? Yep. We would just say, man, that's what happened. But I feel like that mulligan was kind of used, and I'm not sure the Penske brand or Roger Penske wants to hear anything about unintended anything. So you have to be conservative. That's your responsibility as managing one of these race teams.
I will say, though, when you look at timing and scoring, Ford has not really shown up today. It's not just pace.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not trying to draw any conclusions that don't exist or refute what you guys are saying. Ford needs to find a little speed here.
Well, if Team Penske
We've seen so far.
does it like sometimes, they'll just be okay all then just show up halfway through the race tomorrow and be lights out.
Talk Ford, a young driver in Zane Smith. What are they saying there, Trevor?
Well, Zane Smith right now fighting a tight race car, but I had the chance to catch up with all 3 front row motorsports drivers today, and they all said that they have top 15 speed every weekend, and it just comes down to execution, something you hear across the garage. But the thing that stood out is they said qualifying has been the difference maker on those days when they do get a top 15. It allows them to stay on the lead lap that first run, and they can adjust their pit strategy and keep fighting. Dale, I know when we raced, we didn't really care about qualifying for a 600-mile race. We said, we got plenty of time to get there. But in this day and age, track position seems important throughout the entire weekend.
Yeah, back when we were racing, a lot of give and take between the drivers. Hey, you're faster, you go ahead. If I catch you later, you let me go. All that stuff. A lot of that going on in the field. These drivers don't drive by that code anymore. They don't give spots away. They're demanded by their teams to hold on to every spot on the racetrack. They fight for every spot on pit road, every inch on the racetrack. Any kind of a penalty or a speeding penalty early in the race is very difficult to overcome, even with the additional 100 miles that this race has. There's Ross right there with Connor Zillage. Trying, even though he's crashed out of his practice, still trying to learn information, gain what he can, knowledge. It might help them, so he feels as prepared as possible going into the race.
And being a leader for Zilich, right? Going out there to help him. What should he experience here in qualifying? As Danielle pointed out earlier, it is his second start, but first time at an oval. So that means it's going to be his first time qualifying a next gen car at the oval. As we're on board with Larson, little hot pit road entry.
Yeah, it's into this practice. A lot of teams will be trying to practice these pit entries, and here's Alex Bowman sliding the left front. Just a little bit right there.
And that's why you do it at the end of practice, just in case you kill him. It's a tire. It's a flat spot of tire.
Yeah.
The other thought on that is, though, if you make a green flag pit stop, you're going to do it when the tires are worn out, right? And
Yeah.
so
I mean, there's maybe an outside chance you would take fuel only if something crazy happened towards the end of the race, but I can't see that. I think you're definitely changing at least the tire, right sides.
we're at another 45 seconds. So just over a minute to go. Group 2 practice riding on board with Chase Elliott.
Right to the top of the racetrack. We rode around it this morning in pace car. I could not believe how rough it is at the top of this track. I don't know why a driver would be up there because it's so uncomfortable, and that's in a street car. And these cars that are tied to the racetrack, the ride quality is much worse.
I just thought it was your drive.
Oh man, thanks. Into turn 1, it's like a set of railroad tracks. A lot of bumps initially into the corner at the top of the racetrack, but then really smooth all the way around the next of the 2. Down to turn 3. Tons of bumps. Entering all through the center. Massive bumps on the exit of turn 4. It's a little bit better on the bottom of the racetrack where you see William Byron. So if you're running in that top, you've got to be committed. That car is going to be all over the place. A real handful. Pancra's still 20 years old. It looks brand new, though. That's the strangest thing. It hasn't really appeared to age. But if you go out there and ride around it, it's cracked. There's sealer everywhere. Bumps. Terrible bumps in turn 3 and 4. We might get a live pit road entry. Let's walk through it here, Dale, right? So practice is coming to an end right here. He ran the top, so we know it's not coming. I would imagine he's going to come to pit road hard. So as a crew chief, I've called you right here at the start finish. All right, pit next time by. Remember your mark. I've handed you over to the spotter now, who's going to kind of talk you down the backstretch to your mark in 3 and 4 when you think you need to lift. Above there on the exit of 2. Just kind of hops across. Goes to the bottom of the racetrack, and he's going to want to try to stay pinned here to the bottom. The car's trying to go around him in the race, right?
10, 5, and 5.
Evaluation.
I'd say a bit conservative.
Conservative, I would say. A plus, you made it. B plus, we lost some speed.
Practice is done. A host of bar at the top.
Full list of our 40 car field, and based off of where their times were in practice, Carson Hocevar quickest overall, Ty Gibbs second, AJ Allmendinger third, Denny Hamlin fourth, and Tyler Reddick, who was the fastest in Group 2, is fifth. Sixth for Eric Jones, Bubba Wallace seventh, William Byron eighth, Ross Chastain ninth, who crashed after a left rear tire went flat going into turn 3 in the middle of the session. Michael McDowell rounds out the top 10. 11th for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chase Elliott 12th, Brad Keselowski 13th, Shane Van Gisbergen 14th. Pretty good to see him up there. Daniel Suarez in 15th, Noah Gragson 16th, Justin Haley 17th, Alex Bowman 18th, Ryan Blaney 19th, and Austin Cinder 20th. 21st, Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon 22nd, Chase Briscoe 23rd, Jonathan Nemechek 24th, 25th, Riley Herbst, Christopher Bell 26th, Jimmy Johnson 27th, 28th, Cole Custer, Joey Logano 29th, and 30th for Ryan Preece. 31st, Josh Berry, Chris Buescher 32nd, Todd Gillen 33rd, Ty Dillon 34th, and Connor Zilich 35th. 36th for Zane Smith, Cody Ware 37th, Derek Kraus 38th, and Josh Bilicki 39th. Kyle Busch 40th, but he didn't make a lap in that practice session. Lap averages. Ty Gibbs with the fastest 5-lap average. Ross Chastain actually had the fastest 10, 15, and 20 lap averages before his crash on lap 21. 25 lap average best, Brad Keselowski from Group 1, and Daniel Suarez, fastest 30 lap average. Also, he was in Group 1. So qualifying is going to be coming up very shortly here. Within the next few minutes, single car, 1 round, 1 lap. And as you see on screen, the qualifying order will start things off with Connor Zilich, then Josh Bilicki, Derek Kraus will be third, Jimmy Johnson fourth to roll off, And then into the chartered entries, Brad Keselowski, AJ Allmendinger, Ty Dillon, Daniel Suarez, Cody Ware, and Eric Jones. Probably go 10 at a time, and then a commercial break, another 10, commercial break. We'll take an ad break of our own while we're waiting on qualifying to begin as the cars get pushed to the front of pit road. You can vote for who you think is going to qualify on the pole amongst the 4 in the chat. William Byron, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and Ryan Blaney are the voting options. Byron leading at 39% of the votes, Blaney at 36%, 21% for Bell, Reddick at only 4%.
Reddick, Dale alluded to it, just really able to wrap the top. And I learned a lot on that pace car ride, just how bumpy this place is, how line sensitive it is. But the 45 car, surprised me with their speed.
Yeah, their long run speed was really good. We all crammed in that pace car. Dale driving, Letarte, we were 3 wide in the back, and there's no way we were thinking these guys are going to go up to the fence. Sure enough, lap 5, there they are migrating to the top, both ends. I think because you're just asking a little bit less of the car running up there, you have a little bit of that advantage of packing there up against the fence. But I think tomorrow night with cooler temperatures, we're going to see the bottom lane be not as much of a disadvantage. So it's interesting to see those guys way up there in the bumps today. And it looks like guys are handling it pretty good.
Pretty surprised you at all, the Fords? Are they perhaps a half step or 2 behind Chevrolet and Toyota? Maybe those Penske cars specifically.
I think really Steve and the guys up in the booth gave us a PhD level lesson through there, with the example being Ross Chastain in that one car. We're all watching the speed, and then we saw just how knife edge and treacherous it is for the crew chief. So it's hard for me to sit here and say, hey, this group's faster or this group's not, because I'm learning. These guys some of them are taking risks that pay off, and in Ross's case, it did.
That was tough. You hate to see that, but something that stood out to me was the key partner Chevy teams were all strong. It seems like they brought something really good to the racetrack, and then the 45 kind of wedged his way in that group.
Yeah.
It's really anybody's race, but we're going to have a really clear idea here coming up shortly who can lay that one lap down and who can put them on the dash, pull the belt tight, and get after it.
Yeah, qualifying's coming up, so keep it right here on Prime. For those watching on Facebook and YouTube, coverage continues on Prime Video with qualifying just getting underway in a few moments.
All righty. Getting close. Getting close. A couple minutes away from single car qualifying beginning. I'll close the poll when we get halfway through the session. That's how long you'll have to vote for who you think is going to sit the poll, at least most likely of the 4 voting options for this week. Once again, a reminder, we'll be live for the NASCAR Xfinity Series race in Charlotte at 4:30 p.m. Eastern today. A little bit over an hour and a half from now. And we'll also be live for the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night. Our Indy 500 coverage will be at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And the NASCAR pre-race leading into our Coke 600 stream will begin at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, that will be taking place tomorrow. So we're only going to be halfway through the streaming portion of the weekend when we get through this stream here today. We had 2 yesterday, the ARCA and Truck Series doubleheader at Charlotte. So Connor Zilisch is going to be the first to qualify, making his second career Cup start, first on an oval. His first start of the season came back at COTA, had a DNF, got into an accident with his teammate Daniel Suarez that day, trying to miss a spinning Suarez in turn 19. One of the few incidences from that race. Resulted, I believe, in Zilisch having a last place finish for his first career Cup start. Looking for improvement and to complete all the laps this weekend in what is the sport's longest event. 600 miles. Zilisch has also missed a couple of weeks due to an injury sustained at Talladega on the final lap of the Xfinity Series race. Had a lower back injury, sat out the Texas Xfinity race that next weekend. Luckily for him, the Xfinity Series has actually been off the last 2 weeks. But now he's back in action for the Xfinity Series race later today, and again the Cup race tomorrow. Red Bull colors on the car, cool to see. Always liked the Red Bull paint schemes over the years. Showing a replay of that vicious crash into the inside wall for Zilisch. Massive, massive impact. I was actually with being on the road to Talladega that weekend immediately after the Xfinity race. I didn't even realize that he was in the infield care center as long as he was after the event until the next morning. But great to see Zilic back in action this weekend at Charlotte. Home track for him, as well as most of the race teams, as we usually see when NASCAR heads to Charlotte. Missing just the 1 week alone, he's fallen outside of the top 10 in the Xfinity Series standings, but he doesn't have a win, so he's already locked into the playoffs. He'll have a waiver and will remain qualified. Big loose moment for Zilic on the bottom of the racetrack off of turn 4. Not going to be a great lap because of that big wiggle. 30.304 for Zilic. Up next will be Josh Bilicki. 3 finishes of 35th or worse in his first 3 career Coke 600 starts. Will be making his 4th Coke 600 start this weekend, driving the 66 for MBM. One of the 4 open entries, making up our full 40-car field for the Coke 600. Not expecting a whole lot of speed out of the open entry cars most weeks, especially for the 66 and 44, which will be back-to-back here in the early going of the session. So it should still stay at the top of the board. 32.261 for Bilicki, couple seconds off of where Zilic was at. Garrett Krause in the 44 for New York Racing. Be the first Cup start of the season for Krause. And it will be the 7th of his Cup career. He ran 6 races on a part-time effort last season across a few different teams. Had a couple starts at 2311 Racing, Rick Ware Racing, and here he is in the New York Racing Chevrolet this weekend. So going to get some extra laps, build his racing resume. This will be the Coke 600 debut for Derek Krause. He has never ran the 600 before. Second on the speed charts for Krause over our first 3 qualifiers, 31.427. Second quicker than Bilicki, a little over a second slower than Zilic. Here's old 7-time Jimmie Johnson, 4-time Coca-Cola 600 winner in 2001, or sorry, not 2001, in 2003, 2004, and 2005. He also won in 2014. Johnson going to be making his 700th career Cup Series start this weekend. He has 1 race so far this season. That was the Daytona 500, where he finished 3rd back in the spring. I would expect Johnson to go to the top of the speed chart here, as he was very smooth up turn 4 where Zilic was not. 29.926 for Johnson, top of the charts. Pretty respectable time, too. That could be a lap time that gets him into the top half of the field. I don't think it's going to be top 10, but it might be top 20. Brad Keselowski is now on track. He's the 2020 Coca-Cola 600 winner. He was also runner-up in the 600 a season ago. Kyle Larson joining in with Carl Edwards, Corey LaJoie on the prime studio set that they have in the
19th in the Indy 500 tomorrow. Do you have the speed to contend for the win?
Yeah, I think so. It's Indy's like you can't even look at it. Goes into just close to the fast lap, like you can lag a few seconds behind and get a big draft. So we weren't doing any of that yesterday, but yeah, our car there feels pretty good. I feel like it handles all right in traffic. I think there's definitely a couple guys that are top tier, but I think we're like the next group down. So I think if it's normal kind of deal with a Cup race, you just execute, you could be up front.
Man, thanks for joining us. That's cool. You've been asked every racing question. We've talked about you ad nauseum in all these meetings, but I just want to know, what's Caitlin think of this? How's it been?
Caitlin, she loves being a part of doing the double with me and all that goes along with it. So it's been fun having the family there. I've been so busy, I haven't really seen the family a whole thing this week. I'm excited to get back there tonight. We're going to cook out on the bus and just relax before the race tomorrow.
You definitely have earned the opportunity to relax, but you have a big, big day tomorrow, buddy. So much about driving any race cars, the balance between anticipating it, getting there and reacting to it. So going back and forth Indy car to the Cup car, are you anticipating the grip it's giving you, or are you going to react to it?
I don't know, because I feel like, you know, if you took us to any other racetrack besides Charlotte, it'd be really easy, I think, to go back and forth. You know, I was expecting practice sketchy and squirmy as it was. So it was just right there was just really hard for me to anticipate the grip and react to it. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a tough 600 miles for all of us. I think but I think the lap times are okay. So we'll try and get it, you know, a little bit more comfortable. Don't know how hard to push it here in qualifying. I was telling Cliff I have zero confidence right now for how hard to enter the turn. The good thing is we got last, so we get to watch, you know, everybody in front of us, and that will help me predict, hopefully.
We know you can get it done, buddy. Best of luck tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Go Turner Fast Lap. Kyle Larson, everybody, your 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion, attempting the double tomorrow. Adam Larson's already hit Cup and Indy over the past 2 weeks.
Frequent flyer miles, not a problem for Larson right now.
Well, and I love the insight he just gave us. We're up here, we're analyzing what we see in practice, kind of looking at lap time and driver inputs. But to hear a guy who's just naturally so talented and naturally so comfortable behind the wheel to tell us after 25 minutes, I have zero confidence on how to drive this race car, that truly tells us the challenge that all of these drivers are experiencing.
I will say,
So 4 drivers went on to qualify while they were interviewing Kyle Larson. AJ Allmendinger jumps to the top of the speed charts, 29.684. Quick update for AJ. His best finish in the Coke 600 was 5th in 2011. He finished 14th in last year's 600. Ty Dillon qualified 3rd quickest with a 29.988. His best finish here at the Charlotte Oval, 13th in the 2022 600. He'll be making his 8th start in the 600 this weekend. Daniel Suarez yet to score a top 10 in his 8 career Cup starts at Charlotte Motor Speedway. 11th is his best, and that was his rookie season in 2017 with JGR. Suarez qualified 4th with a 30.063. Brad Keselowski also on that list, 30.314 mentioned already. He is the 2020 Coke 600 winner. Cody Ware, 7th on the speed charts. He just wrapped up his lap, 30.683 for Cody Ware. He'll be making his 4th start in the 600. 18th is his best finish of his prior 3. That came in 2022. Now on the racetrack is Eric Jones for Legacy Motor Club, who has the best finish in Charlotte of 7th in 2017. And this will be the 9th Coke 600 for Eric Jones in his Cup career. His teammate, team owner, Jimmy Johnson, currently 2nd. Jones is the 10th driver to put down a qualifying lap in the session. And as he exits turn 4, not tracking in the green to take down AJ Allmendinger. Right in the middle, 5th, 30.1 flat for Eric Jones. So we're a quarter of the way through qualifying. Commercial break on Amazon Prime Video. Our next 10 drivers who will be up to qualify. We'll lead things off with Justin Haley following the break. Riley Herbst after him. Then Cole Custer, Ty Gibbs, Denny Hamlin. And the next 5 would be Bubba Wallace, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Carson Hocevar, Michael McDowell, and Austin Dillon. And again, AJ Allmendinger, top time through the first 10 qualifiers. 29.684 the lap to beat. Almost 2.5 tenths the difference between AJ in 1st and Jimmy Johnson in 2nd. That was a great lap. Allmendinger was 3rd quickest in practice earlier in the stream. Arena Sarah, welcome to the stream. And not a great lap for Brad. 31 likes. Our goal is to get to 50 for today's stream, so be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Got 10 more qualifiers to go to vote for who you think is going to qualify in the poll of the 4 voting options. And we'll take a quick break of our own. You're listening live on KRC. Cup Series qualifying for the Coke 600 continues. So again, up next will be Justin Haley. Haley going to make his 5th 600 start this weekend. Best finish is 2023, where he finished 15th with Colleague Racing. Driving the 7 for Spire Motorsports this year. Justin Haley, a little bit. Probably putting himself into a must-win situation if he's going to make the playoffs. Haven't seen as much speed out of the 7 as what we've seen the 71 and 77, who are top 20 in the standings. Trevor Bain standing next to AJ Allmendinger.
In layman's terms, I really sucked running the top. So I knew I was going to have this lead filter gutter protection Chevy ripping around the middle. Hopefully there was enough grip. It about got it to stick. I had to do a little crack in the throttle. It got tight, but yeah. I just knew that me trying to go up there and I wouldn't get entered with enough speed, so I played it safe.
I like it. I like the confidence that you had in going to the middle. But how important is qualifying now? Even though it's a 600-mile race, we've been talking all day about track position and getting that early. What does this mean to you to have a good qualifying run?
Yeah, we'll see where it ends up. You know, it's tough when you have a bad previous weekend. You got to go out early, and the track just cleans off as guys run. So I was hoping to be kind of around the edge of the top 20 there. 600-mile race, but it's tough to pass. Everybody's so close. So the further you get up front, the more important it is.
It's good, AJ. Have a great day.
I don't know if he'll win the pole, but he's winning with those sunglasses, huh?
And you talk a lot.
I do think AJ's lap is going to hold on for a really good qualifying effort. I would not be shocked if he's in the top 10, top dozen or so. 29.684. It's a few tenths quicker than any lap we saw in practice, which we usually see faster lap times in qualifying compared to practice just beforehand. Justin Haley, actually a pretty good lap for himself as well. 29.856, second for Haley, behind AJ. Slotted right in front of Jimmy Johnson. Riley Herb's going to be making his Coke 600 debut this weekend. The rookie at 2311 Racing. No top 10s in his Xfinity Series career at Charlotte. So looking for better luck on the Cup side. Not great on the qualifying charts, 30.222 for Herb's 7th out of 12. Up next is Cole Custer. Custer's best finish in the 600 came in 2020, where he finished 18th. He's got the Texas A&M University sponsorship on the car this weekend. Custer a couple tenths off of the tracking of where AJ Allmendinger's lap time was, but he looks as if he should be in the sub 30-second lap barrier. Custer crosses the start-finish line. Nope, slipped up a bit through 3 and 4. 30.147, 7th for Custer, just ahead of Herbst, who went right before him, and now is Ty Gibbs. Gibbs a pole last year in the Coca-Cola 600. Had a solid day, ended up finishing in 6th. His best finish of his 2 Coke 600 starts.
The place to me is up top. It's William Byron. It's just, hopefully it's clean by the time I go. So the pole is one up there, and yeah, lane choice is huge here at Charlotte. There's obviously 3 distinct lanes, and you've got to pick the right one. So feel good about a race car. The track is edgy today. It's the bumps are worse than what we tested even a couple months ago. So having our hands full there, but I think our car is pretty good on pace. So we'll see what happens here.
So Dale Jr., the top on an edgy racetrack into 1 and 2, how much commitment does that require?
Well, Ty Gibbs tried to have that.
Second for Ty Gibbs on the speed charts, 29.747. Again, that was William Byron you heard with on an interview with Marty Snyder as he gears up for his qualifying lap. Denny Hamlin brushed the wall in practice, looking to keep it off the wall in qualifying. Hamlin, one of the many Coke 600 winners in the field this weekend. His lone win in the 600 was in 2022. He's got one of the best track records here at Charlotte over the last decade or so. 11 top 10s in his last 13 600 starts. Looking for a good run. He hasn't led a lot of laps in this race, but he's had solid finishes. Looking to put himself into another spot to have that opportunity again this weekend with a good qualifying effort. Not so good for Denny. 30.022, 6th. And based off of that lap time, I think Hamlin's going to be starting pretty deep in the field this weekend. One of the cars that he owns is up next. Bubba Wallace whose best 600 finish came with a on the oval configuration, of course. Wallace a couple tenths off of where AJ put his lap. Again, I really think AJ's going to have a strong lap. I think he's definitely going to be top 10. Gibbs, who was right up there with him in practice, second. So, yeah, looking pretty good right now. Still in the front half of qualifying, though. Not a great lap for Bubba Wallace, 30.277. It looks like he's going to be starting deep in the field as well, 11th on the chart out of 16. Shane Van Gisbergen will be making his second Coca-Cola 600 start this weekend. He actually ran last year for Colleague Racing, finished 28th. Top 15 in practice. So one of the few ovals he's going to for the second time of his Cup career in his rookie season. And as he battles Riley Herbst for that Rookie of the Year honors. It's two pretty tight amongst one another. Herbst leading the way right now. He's not that much further up ahead of Van Gisbergen. Still half the regular season to go. 10th for Shane Van Gisbergen, 30.161. Had the pole for open qualifying a week ago. No pit stops in this one, though, but still a pretty respectable lap, all things considered, for the rookie. Carson Hocevar only won career 600 before this. That came last season in his rookie campaign. He finished 21st in that race. Hocevar was fastest in practice a little bit ago, as we've seen several times already this season. He's had 2 front row starts already this year, including a pole. Trying to go for pole number 2. A little over a tenth off of AJ's time on the tracker. Oh, and he slides off turn 4. Spins down towards the inside of the racetrack on the road course configuration, and as Hocevar rounds out his lap, he's definitely going to be at last, but he saved it from any more harm than what. Little wiggle off of turn 4, and around he went. He had a good lap going. It wasn't going to be for the pole, but now he's going to be starting at the tail end of the field for tomorrow's Coca-Cola 600 based off of this spin. Good save, though. And luckily, the turf on the front stretch kept from tearing the car up. With any extra damage to maybe the nose or the splitter as well. Keeping it green on next for qualifying is Michael McDowell at Spire Motorsports. 17th Coca-Cola 600 start for McDowell this weekend. Just finished his lap up, 4th quickest, 29.897. Pretty solid, respectable lap, just in line behind his teammate Justin Haley. Career best 8th in the Coke 600 in 2022 for McDowell. Austin Dillon, the 2017 Coke 600 winner, now on track. 3 top 10s in the last 5 starts at Charlotte Motor Speedway for Austin Dillon as well. So this is a great track for him. Looking to put himself up the speed charts in qualifying. Dillon, bottom of the track through 3 and 4. Some drivers on the bottom, some through the middle. High side, we're seeing a lot of different lines be ran. Not really sure exactly which one has been the best or more preferred than the other. 9th for Austin Dillon, 30.084. And we are 20 qualifiers in out of 40. Kyle Busch will be on next. Busch did not complete a lap in practice due to a steering issue. But it looks like he is going to attempt to make a qualifying lap. And we'll have to see where he ends up. Again, his teammate Austin Dillon right before him ends up 9th. Kyle Busch, another former Coke 600 winner in the field. 2018 was his lone Coke 600 win. 7 top 10 finishes in his last 8 Coke 600s as well. He's had great runs here with obviously Joe Gibbs Racing over the years, but even the last few years with RCR, he's had some pretty good performances. So even though he didn't turn a lap in practice, he could have a good day coming for himself tomorrow during the race and maybe even in qualifying today as well. Johnson had a good lap. Yeah, pretty solid. Still top 5. Really good considering he was one of the open cars going early in the session as well. AJ Allmendinger just a couple of qualifiers after him and AJ's time still holding up. 29.684 is the time to beat. Next 10 drivers to qualify will be Kyle Busch, Noah Gragson, Zane Smith, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., William Byron. Then Ross Chastain will be skipped. He crashed in practice, so he will be starting at the rear. Todd Gillen, 27th. Tyler Reddick after him. Then Chris Buescher, John Hunter Nemechek. And that will lead us to the final 10 to what will be the commercial break after that. We'll take a quick break while we await Amazon Prime Video to come back on their coverage. You're listening live on KRC. Gonna end the chat poll as well. Asked you guys who the most likely of the 4 drivers in our chat poll for this stream was to qualify on the poll for the Coca-Cola 600. William Byron at 40% of the votes. 32% say Ryan Blaney, 22% for Christopher Bell, and only 5% taking Tyler Reddick. All 4 of those drivers still have to qualify yet. We'll see where they rank. Ty Gibbs standing with Trevor Bayne on pit road.
It'll hold up.
Yeah, I hope it holds up. I didn't really feel like it was great. We were a little bit tight, and it just was. The track's just been slick this weekend. I don't know necessarily it's from the way the rubber's been laid down across the courses because it's a lot cooler than last year, but it also makes it pretty fun when it's slick too. So I feel like our race car is really good. We going out really early after a bad weekend at Kansas. It's just unfortunate because you get buried in the qualifying deal, and it's important to go out early. So, but I'm really happy with my race speed, and I think that's really all that matters here with 400 laps, 100 lap race. There's 4 of them. I'm excited to see how that goes, and I think we'll have a shot for sure tomorrow. I know that we've got really great mile and a half track cars, and I know our program's been really good. So I'm really excited to see where we end up, and let's go get our best run.
Sounds great. Guys like Ty, I'm surprised the track isn't picking up some yet.
I did love the 4 100 lap races. That's a good way to break this race down. We're going to see Kyle Busch, remember, had steering problems during practice, was unable to make a lap. They changed the power steering pump. So this is as bit of a test for Kyle as anyone. I'm impressed.
Yeah, first lap out on the racetrack today, Kyle Busch. 8th quickest, couple spots ahead of his teammate Austin Dillon. Timed in at a 30.043. On track and running the high side, Noah Gragson in the 4 for Front Row Motorsports. Gregson's best finish in the Coke 600 was in 2022, where he finished 24th with Legacy Motor Club. This will be the 4th Coke 600 start for Noah Gragson in his young Cup Series career. Top time to beat is still AJ Allmendinger. Pretty respectable lap going up right now for Gragson. He's within a couple hundredths of a second as he enters turn 3 and now tracking in the green. Green means good. But as he exits turn 4, he loses just a little bit of time. That was probably because he ran the bottom of the racetrack, where AJ might have had a bit bigger of a run off the exit of the corner, running that middle groove through 3 and 4. Middle out of the bumps on the outside, but still enough to keep the speed up. Might be the way to go in qualifying going forward. Haven't seen a lot of drivers run that middle line yet. Gragson did have a bit of a wiggle on the bottom as well that also hurt him. 3rd quickest so for Gragson, 29.809. Up next is Zane Smith. He had a top 10 in the Coca-Cola 600 a couple of years ago. 2023. 33rd last season. This will be the 3rd Coke 600 start for Smith this weekend. Smith exits turn 4, across the start-finish line on the front stretch, 9th with a 30.039. So again, 9th for Zane Smith out of 22 drivers to make a qualifying lap. The Fun Pop Chevrolet. All sorts of colors on that car this weekend for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. We usually see a vibrant car with the Sunny D scheme, but this weekend it's Fun Pops on Memorial Day weekend. Stenhouse has a pretty good track record here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, even in recent years. Stenhouse has 4 top 10s in his last 7 Coke 600s. His best finish in the 600 was 5th in 2019. That was his only career top 5 in this race. Sitting 15th on the playoff grid coming into this race as well. having a pretty good first half of the season, trying to get his way into the playoffs. AJ Allmendinger, who's right there with him in points. Good qualifying lap for AJ. And pretty solid for Ricky, fourth with a 29.847. Here's Joey Logano with Marty Snyder on pit.
Put me on the pole.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't work like that. Marty, I wish it did, but it doesn't. You got to earn it, everything in NASCAR here. Hopefully we got a good enough Penzo Mustang that we can earn a pole. It's kind of hard to say. Qualifying a lot of times we do a good job at finding something, and hopefully Paul and the guys are able to do that. Seemed like our long haul was in the ballpark, but a short run wasn't. So just balance off. So hopefully we made the right adjustments on the balance and figure out what lane to run. It's 1 and 2 is questionable, so it's fun to watch these guys and see which lane they're going to want to run.
However, Adam, a little birthday present in the form of a pole wouldn't be a bad thing.
Great lap by William Byron, top of the speed charts, 29.566 as he finally bumps AJ Allmendinger. Byron's got a great track record at Charlotte, fourth or better in 3 of the last 4 Coca-Cola 600s. He finished runner-up in 2023. That's the best. Second, third, and fourth place runs in the 3 of those 4 race stretches. So he's definitely going to be one of the favorites. He hasn't won since the Daytona 500 earlier this year. And it's been a minute since the same driver has won the 600 and the 500 in the same season. As for Todd Gilliland in the 34, he is now on track for Front Row Motorsports. 16th is Gilliland's best in the 600. That came back in 2022 in his rookie season. And as Gilliland crosses the start-finish line, he's going to be pretty deep on the qualifying order. 21st, it looks like, for Gilliland with a 30.314. Up next is Tyler Reddick. Reddick was the first of those he was last of the 4 voting options. Byron was first, for who I asked of you was most likely to qualify on the pole for today's race. Tyler Reddick, 5 top 5s in the Coca-Cola 600 in his 5 600 starts. He's never finished worse than 10th. And his best finish here was actually last season where he finished 4th. Very consistent at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for Reddick. Pretty good lap for himself in qualifying. Tried to run the high side of the racetrack at both ends. 6 for Reddick, 29.856. He's really the first driver to run the high side of the track on both ends. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. On tap now is Chris Buescher, who finished 6th in 2019 as his best Coke 600 finish. Although he doesn't have a top 5 here, he has had 4 top 10s in the last 6 600 starts. Not great in practice earlier. He was pretty deep on the speed chart there. And very close to the wall off turn 4 as he exited from the inside lane where he ran in the middle of the corner. Pretty good lap for Buescher, though. Second, 29.660. Buescher also qualified second at Kansas in the last points paying race, so pretty good qualifying efforts on the last couple of mile and a halves for that 17 team. His teammate Brad Keselowski, on the other hand, looks like he's going to be starting outside the top 30 again, so much different on the qualifying order. We have yet to see Ryan Preece, the 3rd RFK Ford, hit the track. John Hunter Nemechek in the 42 for Legacy Motor Club is up next. Nemechek's best finish in the 600 was in 2020, his rookie season where he finished 16th. Finished 30th in his only other Coke 600 start, which was last season. Nemechek exits turn 4, heads for the start-finish line. And Jimmy Johnson finally going to get bumped out of the top. Up next is Chase Elliott. He has 1 career win at Charlotte on the Oval. And it was in 2020, but it wasn't the 600. It was a points-paying event in the middle of the week following the 600, a 350-mile race. And as far as Chase Elliott in the 600, he's finished runner-up 3 times, but he's never won the 600. He's got a great track record here, although in recent years with the next-gen car, it hasn't been as great. 33rd, 34th, and 7th in his 3 next-gen starts here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Pretty good on the Roval, too. Just hasn't won the 600. Came close in 2020. was leading, went into overtime, pitted. Some others stayed out, was never able to get back to the lead. That was one of his runner-ups. As he got back into second, Brad Keselowski won that night. Not a great qualifying lap for Chase Elliott either. As he was pretty deep in the field there. 14th, 30.037 for Chase. And on track is now Austin Cindric. Cindric finished 20th last season. That's his best of his first 3 Coke 600 starts. The other 2, 31st and 34th. So definitely looking for a pickup. He was 20th in practice overall. Bit of a wiggle on the bottom of the track through 3 and 4 in his qualifying lap. And he's going to time in 10th as of right now, 29.871. Ryan Preece is up next. Preece 26th in last year's Coke 600, 13th the year before that, and that 13th was his best. He has yet to score a top 10 in the race, but this is his first start in the 600 with his new team at RFK Racing. His teammate Buescher is currently second. Keselowski further back on the leaderboard. It looks like Preece going to be somewhere in between them both. Few tenths off as he works down the back straightaway from the top time of Byron. That time is a 29.566 thus far. Headed for home. And Preece is going to be 21st, 30.114. What is going on here? This guy in a golf cart is wedged. I'm not sure how he got the golf cart in the...
Hey, Austin Powers, I hope he's watching because he thinks this is a move he's tried to make before.
Yeah, you were going to go through golf cart training earlier. Is that right?
Did you do?
I had to unmute it there for a quick second. I wanted to hear the dialogue of it. I was a little late on it. I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't looking at the TV screen at the time. What's going on now is Joey Logano's on track. Logano has never won the Coca-Cola 600. His best finish in this race is 2019, where he finished runner-up. And he actually has 5 straight finishes outside of the top 10. That second place run in 2019 was the last top 10 finish he's had at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So looking for a solid run for this weekend. Qualified 12th as of now, 29.916. A little bit behind his teammate Cindric, who went a couple cars before him. Ryan Blaney, his other teammate, still to go a little bit later on. Affiliated teammates on track right now, that being the 21 of Josh Berry. Berry's had some good speed on 1.5 mile tracks this season. Won at Las Vegas, led quite a few laps at Texas. Spun out from the lead in that race. And here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, he's got a decent qualifying lap going, but it's not going to be anything that'll contest for the pole. See if he can break into the top 10. He's going to be close. Probably going to be right around where Cindric and Logano were as he loses more time through 3 and 4. A little bit of a wiggle as he got to the exit of the corner. Seen quite a few cars wiggled their way up the racetrack off of turn 4. And as Berry times in, a 29.970 for Josh Berry, 14th on the grid. Chase Briscoe in the 19 car is up next. Briscoe's best finish in this race, 4th. In 2022, it's his only top 10 in his first 4 Coke 600 starts. He was 25th as well. His only Coke 600 start was last year. He finished 10th in that race. See where Briscoe times in for qualifying. He's got a great lap going right now. He's within a few hundredths of Byron's lap time. Can he hold it through 3 and 4 as he goes to the bottom of the racetrack? Majorly off throttle, gets back into the gas at a decent point. Tracker going in the right direction. Briscoe, top of the speed charts. I believe he got it. 29.532. Great lap. Just over 300s quicker than William Byron. So Briscoe sits at the top with just a few more drivers to go. Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Larson will be the last 4. And up right now is Alex Bowman in the 48. Bowman starting off with a great lap. Working the high side through turns 1 and 2. Best finish for Bowman in the 600, 2021. He finished 5th. 5 top 10s in the last 7 races here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, all with Hendrick Motorsports. So another great track for another Hendrick driver. All 4 of them have had some pretty decent success here, despite the fact only one of their active drivers have actually won the 600. Good lap for Bowman. 8th, 29.814 with just a couple more qualifiers to go. We'll have to see if he holds into the top 10. Final Ford to qualify will be Ryan Blaney. He's the 2023 winner of this race. Though he only has 2 career top 10s in the Coca-Cola 600. A third place run a couple years before that win in 23. Couple tenths off of the top time. About halfway through the qualifying lap so far for Blaney. 190 miles an hour on corner entry into turn 3. Goes to the paint down to the bottom of the racetrack. Great arc through the corner, but Penske definitely seems to be lacking a bit of speed this weekend. 19th for Ryan Blaney, 30.029. And not a great lap. He'll be starting mid-pack. So all 3 Penske Fords going to be starting outside the top 10. Defending winner of the Coca-Cola 600, Christopher Bell, is on track. He won the All-Star race a week ago. He has 3 points, paying rents all early in the season also. 3 top 10 finishes in 5 Coca-Cola 600 starts for Christopher Bell. And that win he had last year was his only top 5 in this race. Pretty good qualifying lap going for Bell. Tracking pretty close to his teammate Chase Briscoe, is at the top of the speed charts right now. Lost a bit of time, though, off turn 4. Couldn't hold the hammer down. And Bell falls to 9th, 29.815. And last but not least, Kyle Larson. Time to beat 29.532 from Chase Briscoe a few qualifiers ago, and Kyle Larson tried to take him down. Can he start up front in the Coke 600? He'll be flying in from Indianapolis tomorrow evening. Larson's only win in the 600 came in 2021 with Hendrick Motorsports. He's led 378 laps in just 2 of the last 3 races here. And obviously did not run last year because of the rain delay to the Indy 500 and the 600 starting on time and getting rain shortened. Larson's second, 29.552, a little bit off of Briscoe's time, 0.02 of a second. The difference between first and second for the pole spot for the second year in a row. Joe Gibbs Racing will be on the pole for the 600. Last year, Ty Gibbs, and again this year, Chase Briscoe with a lap time of a 29.532. And here is Briscoe. He'll be starting up front.
Opportunity to come to this team and be a part of this program. And he had such a great run to the finish of last year. People thought that this was his chance to finally get in a car and really show what he could do. And this pole is going to build that confidence, Marty, going into the 600 tomorrow.
Boy, Junior, what an impressive performance for Chase Briscoe and Joe Gibbs Racing today. Where did you gain that time over William Byron and eventually Kyle Larson? Was it in 3 and 4?
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I felt okay kind of everywhere. You know, honestly, I thought I gained a little in 1 and 2, but then talking to James on the radio coming in, it was more in 3 and 4. So, yeah, I felt like it wasn't the most perfect lap by any means, but it was good enough. So, yeah, just super excited to finally be kind of getting the results on Saturday that I feel like we deserve with our Bass Pro Shops Toyota. So, yeah, this is obviously a great opportunity to lead the field of green for, 600 miles, and doing it with Bass Pro on the hood too is pretty dang cool Memorial Day weekend. So, yeah, looking forward to tomorrow and see if we can keep it up there now.
You told me it's been a long time since you've looked forward to a race like this one. Did you have a sneaking suspicion that this kind of performance might be coming?
Yeah, I mean, the 19 car's been really good here, right? And then this is really the first track I got to run 1.5 miles in this car, and we came and did the Goodyear tire tests, and I just was able to really learn things throughout the day. So, yeah, I definitely felt confident coming into this weekend. We've had speed kind of all year long. I just haven't been able to perform good enough on Saturday on my end to put us in position. So finally did that. Hopefully I can do my job tomorrow now.
The testing, all the sim work pays off. Chase Briscoe on the pole here for the Coca-Cola 600.
Average speed on that lap time, 182.852 miles per hour as well. Starting lineup for this weekend's Coca-Cola 600 as follows. Chase Briscoe again on the pole. First time in this race that he has done that. Kyle Larson outside of the front row and the double. Can you imagine if he wins the 600 after running 500 miles at Indy just hours before? Row number 2 for William Byron and Chris Buescher. Row 3, AJ Allmendinger, whose lap time held up for a top 5. And John Hunter Nemechek surprising in qualifying. Ty Gibbs, last year's pole sitter, will be 7th this year inside of row 4. Noah Gregson to the outside. Alex Bowman, Christopher Bell. Bell, the defending winner of the race, in row 5. Row 6 for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Tyler Reddick. Justin Haley, Austin Cindric, row 7. Row 8 for Michael McDowell and Joey Logano. Jimmie Johnson, the 4-time Coke 600 winner, 700 start. He'll be starting top half of the field. Respectable lap in qualifying, 17th for Jimmy. Josh Berry to his outside, one-time winner this year. Ty Dillon with Denny Hamlin in row 10. Row 11 will be Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott. Zane Smith, Kyle Busch in row number 13. Row 12. Row 13 will be Daniel Suarez and Austin Dillon. Behind them in row 14, Eric Jones and Ryan Preece. Row 15, Cole Custer, Shane Van Gisbergen. Riley Herbst, Bubba Wallace in row 16. Connor Zilic, Todd Gillen, row 17. Brad Keselowski, Cody Ware, row 18. Row 19 for Derek Kraus and Josh Bilicki. Carson Hocevar, Ross Chastain. In the final row, Hocevar spun on his qualifying lap, no damage. And Chastain crashed in practice, did not participate in qualifying. So he'll be bringing up the rear of the field as well tomorrow. That's your full 40-car starting lineup for tomorrow's Coca-Cola 600. We'll be live for that race at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Live stream still to come here today. NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage will be in about an hour from now at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. We will also be live for the Indianapolis 500 tomorrow before the Coke 600 at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So 3 streams down, 3 to go still this weekend. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more live commentary streams like this. See you in a little bit, everybody.